Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 14th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. We'll start with roll call tonight.
Carey? Here. Kimball? Stephenson?
Here.
Schlotthauer?
Here.
Schreiber?
Here.
Wilhelm?
Here.
Flock?
Here. All right. Ceremonies, announcements, appointments, or presentations.
Here we go. Yeah, so the first thing is it's National Pecan Day. It's a big day. I know, I'm sorry.
No serious.
But there are a couple other things. We will be looking at maybe getting a special meeting here in a couple weeks, just a quick one just to get together. We have a couple zoning recommendations that we are going to finish, and so we'll be trying to get maybe a special call meeting collaborated, so see an email on that here soon.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at maybe just doing a call-in version on those.
Sounds good. Call when works.
And then another item is we are in the process of doing a comp plan update. And on that, on Wednesday, April 29th, there's going to be 3 presentations. One of them's from 8 to 9 over at the Chamber of Commerce. Another one's going to be noon to 1 over at the Chameleon Park at the Trailhead. And another one is going to be about 6 to 7:30 over at the Hyatt Place down the road here. Then on the 30th, we're going to have a workshop on that, and that is going to be from 3:30 to 8 here at City Hall. The details of this will be on our website for anybody watching. So, all right, thank you.
That was good. Thank you.
Commissioners, I'd like to point out also tonight that we're having a public hearing on the budget workshop. And there's an internal bet to staff as to this meeting going later than that one or that one. So depending on how fast or...
So what are you trying to say?
Where's your money, Chris?
I just don't want to lock up, so.
Let's vote.
But they're starting at 5:32, so we're on the clock.
All righty. Well, let's keep moving along then. Amendments to the agenda.
There's none.
Any declaration of conflict, ex parte contacts, or site visits from commission members?
None.
Seeing none, let's look at the consent calendar.
So item A is the meeting minutes from the March 10th meeting, and item B is the meeting minutes from March 31st, 2026 meeting. Item C is the Rosewater Place Subdivision Reason Decision, file number SUBD 2510. Item D is the Pleasant View Annexation Zoning Recommendation, file number ANNX 2510. Item E is the Echo Estates Subdivision Reason Decision, file number SUBD 244. Item F is the G2 Subdivision Amendment Reason Decision, file number SUBA 261. Item G is the Crown Reserve Subdivision Reason Decision, file number SUBD 256.
Okay. Any questions on that? There's no questions. I'd like to make a motion.
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Carey?
Yes.
Stephenson?
Yes.
Schlotthauer?
Yes.
Schreiber?
Yes.
Wilhelm?
Yes.
Flock?
Yes.
Next item is citizen issues. This section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the commission on an issue that is not on the agenda tonight. Persons wishing to speak will have 5 minutes. Do we have any takers? All right, seeing none. Looks like we have no unfinished or old business, correct?
Correct.
All right, next item is the public hearings. We have 3 of them tonight. If you're wishing to speak during them, there's paperwork in the back by the door. Please fill that out and turn that in up front here to Nancy. First hearing will be Klondike Place Subdivision, file number SUBD-26-2, and we'll open that hearing.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Justin Souter. I'm an associate planner here, and As was just stated, we have Klondike Place subdivision, file number SUBD-26-2. The property owner is Prestige EMC LLC. The applicant is Whipple Consulting Engineers, and the applicant is seeking approval to subdivide approximately 4.63 acres into 21 lots within the medium density or the R2 residential zone. The subject property is on the southwest corner of Poline Avenue and McGuire Road, and it is mainly surrounded by residential development to the north, south, and west, with some farmland to the east across McGuire Road. Also to the north of this site, to the south of this site is the proposed Lucky Larry Estates, which we will be getting into at the next public hearing. So just wanted to say that, and we'll see that more as we go through here. So the site is within the R2 zone. That is the orange color that you can see here. And then again to the south is also the R2 medium density residential zone. And then to the east across McGuire Road, we have R1 single family residential. And then to the north and the west, we have properties that are within Kootenai County. Here is the subject site on Poline and McGuire. There's currently one home there that will be removed. And then you can see to the south is that parcel where Lucky Larry Estates will be, if approved. Here is the proposed subdivision. So there are 21 lots proposed. Access would be from Poline Avenue as well as from Chilkoot Trail and then Yukon Loop, which both would connect to Lucky Larry Estate subdivision to the south, again, if approved. The lots range in size from about 4,300 square feet up to 9,000 square feet. And now we will get into the review criteria. So number one, definite provision has been made for a water supply system that is adequate in terms of quantity and quality of the type of proposed subdivision. Water will be provided by the East Green Acres Irrigation District, and we do have a will serve letter. Number two, adequate provisions have been made for a public sewage system and that the existing municipal systems can accommodate the proposed sewer flows. Sanitary sewer would be extended to the north on Yukon Loop and Chilkoot Trail. Conceptual layout of the sanitary sewer system as proposed shows the ability to be served and shall be designed and constructed to city standards. And the existing sewer has capacity and the city is willing to serve the project as proposed. Number three, the proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The subdivision and proposed layout is consistent with the city's master plan, the city's transportation master plan. Poline Avenue shall be designed and constructed as a 3-lane minor arterial roadway, and McGuire Road shall be designed and constructed as a minor arterial roadway, matching the roadway configuration that is existing to the south of Midway Avenue. An HOA must be formed and responsible for the maintenance of landscaping and irrigation, including snow removal from sidewalks and trail along the public rights-of-way adjoining McGuire Road and Poline Avenue. And both McGuire and Poline will have some improvements such as sidewalk as well. 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards have been identified. The site is over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. There are no known topographical conditions which have been identified as presenting hazards. Any septic systems will be removed upon development. There are 2 gas pipelines near the site, but neither one of them run through the site. The Northwest Pipeline Corporation has a pipeline that's about 600 feet south that runs through the Lucky Larry Estate subdivision. And then Phillips 66 has a pipeline somewhere around 265 feet or so to the north across Poline Avenue. The project was sent to both of those agencies, and neither one of them had any comments, which we will also see later on. 5, the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and it conforms to other requirements found in the code. The subdivision and proposed lots conform to the requirements of both Title 17 and 18 of the Municipal Code, and single-family detached homes are allowed through the land use table found in Post Falls Municipal Code, Section 18-02, or .020, .030, within the R2 zone. Final criteria, the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of cost to provide services by paying fees. Impact fees will be assigned and collected on individual building permits to assist in mitigating the off-site impacts to parks, public safety, streets, multimodal, EMS, and fire. Here's a list of the agencies that were notified of the project. We received comments back from these 6. They remain neutral or will review during project permitting, had no facilities within the site or no comments. The one of note is PA5, the Post Falls Highway District. They did meet with and talk with our engineering division and agreed with the proposed preliminary plat that you see. And then here it is one more time for you to see. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Anybody have any questions?
Can you remind me, in the R2 zone, what's the maximum density, and then how does that compare with what's being proposed here?
John, do you know the maximum density? It's
Well, the minimum lot size for the R2 is 4,000 square feet. And so all their lots are above the minimum proposed size. So how you calculate that would be to take 43,560 divided by 4,000. That would yield the maximum density that would be potential in the R2 as a single family product.
Okay. And here, the density that they're going for is drastically less than that?
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
Okay.
I haven't calculated either, but maybe the applicant can speak to that.
What did you say the minimum lot size was in there?
4,000.
4,000, okay.
Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, invite the applicant up. Name for the record, please.
Ray Kimball for the record. I'm here tonight representing the owners of this. Ray Kimball with Whipple Consulting Engineers. I'll keep this quick. So here is the vicinity. This is the site shown in blue, as Justin mentioned. So the density of this project is, so we are at, the average lot area is 5,899, which is much larger. And I believe that is the wrong density on there, that's for sure. So we are right around 5 unit, a little under 5 units per acre. And I think the R2 density, or the low density residential in Post Falls, allows up to, it's like 6 to 8, I believe. That's in the comp plan. All of the lots meet the minimum size criteria, both lot width and in area. We have made adequate provision to provide water. That's through East Green Acres Irrigation District. There is an existing 6-inch main in pole line, which we will be replacing with a brand new 10-inch main and then tapping off of that. Sewer will be extended from the existing trunk main on the east side of McGuire. And the streets meet the proposed streets are consistent with the Transportation Master Plan. Both McGuire and pole line will be widened to minor arterial standards, and provisions have been made to adequately connect to adjacent properties. There are no known topographical hazards or topographical conditions that are incompatible with the proposed use. There's about 7 feet of drop in elevation from one side of the property to the other. And as I mentioned before, all of the subdivision lots meet the requirements of R2 zoning, and all of the lots are intended for single-family detached housing. And with regards to making sure that that the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs to provide services, the dedication of right-of-way on McGuire Road and Pauline Avenue and the construction of about 900 feet of minor arterial frontage improvements on McGuire and Pole Line, and the payment of impact fees ensures that this approval criteria is met. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Any questions?
Just one quick one. Looking at the site data summary, it shows total project area of 4.6 acres, and then the area of the actual lots is about 2.8.
Right.
So the way I read that is that this project is essentially developing and then gifting to the city almost 2 acres of land for this project. Is that kind of how that works out?
Yeah, that's how it works out. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of frontage. So minor arterials take up 55 feet from center line. So the half width of the road is 55 feet total width. So arterial takes 55 feet from the other side as well. And interior streets are 65 feet wide right-of-way width. So there's a good chunk of that in there. And then having that knuckle kind of takes a chunk out of it as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's about 2 acres.
Anything else? All righty, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Public testimony?
I guess I'll just do this.
Not wishing to speak in opposition, Sherry Boldlander. Too much traffic and congestion already. If you want to speak, you can come up and ask a question, and then the applicant come up and rebut and answer your question at that time. Yes, please, because we need everything on the record. Just name for the record, and you can ask your question, and then the applicant come back up and probably address your question.
My name is Sherry Bolander, and I live on McGuire Road. I live right at the entrance of Prairie Meadows, and my concern is the traffic on McGuire. It's already really bad, and it's so noisy because the road's right there alongside my house. And you mentioned widening McGuire Road. Does that mean the highway's gonna inch in closer on the east side? The traffic is the main thing, and the noise from the traffic because there's semis. And that's my main objection. And plus, all those homes is gonna put a lot more traffic in the residential area for the people that live in Prairie Meadows. Can you tell me what the plan is for McGuire Road? I thought that it was gonna be closed off at 53 with that project with Pleasant View.
Yeah, I don't know. The applicant can probably speak a little bit to your question, though.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you know?
Well, he can come up. As soon as you're done, he'll come back up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just my objection, and, I don't know. I just hate to see all our open land disappear.
Thank you. Nancy, did we get another one, or was that for a few? Another one? Okay. Okay. Mr. Kimball, would you like to rebut?
Ray Kimball again for the record. To answer the lady's question, it's my understanding that McGuire eventually will be closed off from Highway 53. As part of our project, we will be widening only along our frontage. And the reason for doing that is to expand the capacity of McGuire Road to handle the traffic that will be generated by the development, both ours as well as that of the surrounding area, whether that ends up being up the road, down the north, south, anywhere in that corridor, or in the surrounding area. Increasing the width of that road allows for higher capacity, which eases traffic congestion. And so, that's that.
But specific to this project, it would only be widening on your side, which is the west side of McGuire?
Correct. We will only be widening on the west side of McGuire for our 330 feet of McGuire and the 660 feet of pole line.
Oh.
So pole line will end up with a dedicated right-hand turn lane, a eastbound right-hand turn lane, and a through left. And then ostensibly, McGuire will end up with 2 southbound lanes. Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Close out the hearing and look at our review criteria.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Before you tonight is Klondike Place subdivision, file 26-2, 4.63 acres in an R2 zone, 21 single-family lots for a subdivision consideration. The first criteria up on the screen there is whether definite provision for water supply has been proposed.
Yep, we'll serve letter from Green Acres.
Thank you, Commissioners. Same question for the public sewage system, and that the existing system can accommodate the proposed flows.
Yeah, that's going to be the city, and there was no indication that there's any capacity issues.
Third element on this decision is whether the proposed streets are consistent with the transportation elements of the comprehensive plan.
They are, and they're being upgraded to meet the conditions that the comprehensive plan requires.
Yeah, both pole line and McGuire are going to be widened, improved, frontage improvements. Pole line will have the 3 lanes, turning lanes. So lots of improvements which will hopefully alleviate any congestion.
I'd note on this one, and since the next decision tonight is the adjacent subdivision, but there is some cross-connectivity proposed too, which is probably also an element that might satisfy that criteria.
And to note, it's something that we struggle with on a lot of these is we're not redeveloping McGuire from top to bottom. We're not redeveloping pole line all the way across the city for one project, but as these projects get developed, the street gets widened in front of it. And then the street gets widened in front of the next project down the road. So it is incremental, and sometimes there's overlap, I know, on other streets around the city where you have a piece missing. And so we have a traffic congestion at that spot. There's not much we can really do about that. But we can accommodate it when we're looking at individual projects, and that's what this project is doing by dedicating a substantial amount of land to widen the streets and then improve those streets, curbs, gutters, sidewalks, all that fun stuff. So,
Yeah, and Commissioner Schreiber, on that point, I think it's important to note that these dedications are consistent with the street plan in general when we look at the bigger
Yes.
picture. So focusing in on this parcel individually, as we kind of have to, we just try to say, yes, this is consistent with a comprehensive plan, or if it's not, what are the failings in that issue? So
Agreed.
I agree. Number 4, any areas of the proposed subdivision involving soil or topographical hazards are identified.
There's none noted.
Nope, I don't think there was any testimony on that regard.
Yeah.
Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the use, and it conforms to any other requirements found in our code.
I want to just come back to the density on that particular question. So this site is already zoned R2, and the R2 zoning, with the 4,000 square foot minimum lot size, you could technically go up to 50 units on this site by right, per our actual code. And in this case, they're going for about 4.5 units per acre, which is substantially less. So in my opinion, yes, it absolutely meets the zoning requirements, the existing zoning requirements.
Yeah, that's on their smallest lot.
conforms to the Title 18, Title 17, and single-family detached homes are allowed in R2.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. And then finally, number 6, adequate plans ensuring the costs are internalized for the impacts.
Yeah, this goes back to the staff report, just the impact fees, and also with this one, there's a lot of frontage improvements that'll take off the taxpayers and improve that area.
And as with any corner lot, there are a lot of improvements that the developer will have to make to benefit the city. So the ratio of lots they receive for the amount of improvements is pretty low on this parcel. It's good for the city.
It would be very interesting to see a breakdown of that. I'm not saying on this particular project, but by the time you add up all the land that's being dedicated and then all the improvements that are being made and all the impact fees and everything that are paid on top of that, it would be
It's substantial.
substantial.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Anything else? Any other deliberation? Or would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve Klondike Place subdivision file number SUBD-26-2, public hearing, finding that it meets the approval criteria in the Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12-060, as outlined on our deliberation, subject to conditions 1 through 8 contained in the staff report, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
Okay, motion on the floor,
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Flock,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Schlauer,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Carey.
Yes.
Okay, motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is Lucky Larry Estates subdivision file number SUBD-26-1,
I bet it's 75.
and we'll open that hearing.
Could be 100.
All right. Justin Souter again. And like I said, we have Lucky Larry Estates subdivision, file number SUBD-26-1. The property owner is Wild Horse Investments, LLC. The applicant is Whipple Consulting Engineers. And they are seeking approval to subdivide approximately 13.46 acres into 63 lots within the medium-density residential zone, or the R2 zone. The subject property is on the northwest corner of Yukon Avenue and McGuire Road. It's mainly surrounded by residential development to the southwest, to the south and the west, and farmland to the east across McGuire Road. And then to the north would have the Klondike Place subdivision, which was just approved. Here is the zoning for the subject property and the surrounding area. You can see it is in the R2 zone. Again, to the west and the south, we have properties within the county. To the north is also R2. As again, that's that Lucky Larry Estates. And then to the east, across McGuire Road, is R1, and it is currently farmland. Here is the subject site. So you have McGuire Road, and then you have Yukon Avenue. You can see it's currently 3 parcels, and there's currently 3 single-family homes on larger lots. And the home that is further up on McGuire is actually being proposed to remain and become part of the subdivision, and we'll see that on the subdivision plan on a future slide. Then again, Klondike Place would be right up here. Also take note, Yukon Avenue comes up this way and connects to McGuire Road, and then we have the railroad right down here to the south of the site. Here is the proposed subdivision. First off, I just want to mention that this is oriented to the right, so north is actually pointing to the right, so I could fit it on the screen. So you've got pole line over there furthest to the right, and then you've got Klondike Place in that green color. And And so here are the 63 proposed lots. They range in size from about 5,100 square feet up to almost 12,000 square feet. You can also see the blue square is lot 54, and that is the existing home that is proposed to remain and become part of the subdivision. And then the subdivision is conditioned so that no lots can gain access from McGuire, so that existing home will be required to provide a new drive approach onto Yukon Loop. You can also see here in this yellow dashed line, this is where the Northwest gas pipeline is. So here is proposed a 20-foot easement, so no buildings would be over this easement right here. If you take note of the Union Pacific Railroad on the bottom left, which would be the southeast corner of the site, this is where Yukon Avenue and McGuire Road intersected, but now Yukon Road will go up into Yukon Loop, and this intersection will disappear, so it'll go from Yukon Road up to Yukon Loop onto Cornelius Avenue. This is something that the city and the engineering division and the highway district talked about and decided that this was best for safety. So we'll see that in the comments later on as well. Now we'll get into the review criteria. Number 1, definite provision has been made for a water supply system that is adequate in terms of quantity and quality for the proposed subdivision. Once again, we have a will serve letter from East Green Acres that they're willing to serve the site. 2, adequate provisions have been made for a public sewage system, and the existing municipal system can accommodate the proposed sewer. The existing sanitary sewer is located on the east side of McGuire, and the conceptual layout of the sanitary sewer system as proposed shows the ability to be served and will be designed to and constructed to city standards. The existing residential home shall connect to sanitary sewer with this project and pay the appropriate capacity fees with the construction improvement agreement. 3, proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. The subdivision and proposed layout is consistent with the city's transportation master plan. Yukon Avenue shall be designed and constructed as a 32-foot wide local residential roadway, and it is to be realigned and extended to the north, eliminating the connection to McGuire Road that is close to that railroad crossing. This would move the connection point to McGuire about 500 feet to the north of that railroad crossing. Complete frontage improvements will be completed by the developer along the railroad right-of-way. And the realignment, as I said, was discussed with the city of Post Falls and the Post Falls Highway District for safety reasons. McGuire Road shall be designed and constructed as a minor arterial roadway, matching the roadway configuration existing to the south of Midway. And then an HOA must be formed and responsible for maintenance of landscaping. And then finally, a fence shall be installed with the first phase of the subdivision along the boundary with the Union Pacific Railway. Number 4, all areas of the proposed subdivision which may involve soil or topographical conditions presenting hazards has been identified. There are no known soil or topographical conditions which have been identified as presenting hazards. As we saw on the subdivision plan, the Northwest Pipeline Corporation does have a pipeline that's running through the site. However, there will be an easement, a 20-foot wide easement, and no buildings will be over it. And also, as we'll see, this was sent to them, and they did not provide any comments, so they must not have any concerns with it. Number 5, the area proposed for subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and the use conforms to other requirements in this code. The subdivision and proposed lots conform to the requirements of both Title 17 and 18 of the Municipal Code, and single-family detached homes are allowed through the land use table within the R2 zone. The final review criteria, the developer has made adequate plans to ensure that the community will bear no more than its fair share of cost. Impact fees will be assessed and collected on individual building permits to assist in mitigating off-site impacts to parks, public safety, streets, multimodal, EMS, and fire. Here's a list of the agencies that were notified, and we received comments back from these 6. Once again, the comment of most note is PA 5, the Post Falls Highway District. They did meet with the Engineering Division, and they agree with the proposed preliminary plat. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. The applicant's also here as well.
Any questions for staff?
And Post Falls Highway District, is it directly involved because they're in charge of McGuire? Is that right?
I'm going to defer to engineering on that one, so Jim, if you want to come.
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Jim Mulcahy, Senior Staff Engineer, City of Post Falls. So Yukon to the west is actually the Post Falls Highway District.
Oh, okay.
So we worked, basically communicated with them to relocate the location to get back to McGuire.
Got it, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Commissioners, I have one just for, Justin, you had mentioned a fence being required. I didn't see that in the conditions of approval. Where is that fence, and would that be something you'd add in as a condition of approval?
It was referenced in the staff report. If it didn't make it as a condition, there's also something that came from engineering, so I'd ask Jim to come back up and talk about the fence.
Sorry, I just didn't see it.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Jim Mulcahy once again. So anytime we go along a railway, we usually, there's code provisions that require a fence to go in to separate for safety reasons for the railroad.
So is it south of Yukon or north?
It's going to be north of the railroad and where the red line comes across. So Yukon goes up, but that red line that comes across, the fence will be located in there. There'll be another pedestrian facility that comes across. So there'll be the fence, the pedestrian facility, and the subdivision.
Would that end up being in the construction improvement agreement? Would that be part of that? Is that-
Yes.
Okay. So that is a condition, it just would be underneath that condition. Got it, okay.
I guess technically it doesn't need it to be in the subdivision conditions because it's going to be in that
Yeah, that's what I was
improvement,
wondering.
so technically. So, all right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Invite the applicant up.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Commissioners. Ray Kimball again for the record. With Whipple Consulting Engineers, I'm here tonight representing the owner for Lucky Larry Estates. As you see, this is the site indicated here in blue. And this is the preliminary plat. So we are subdividing into 63 different lots. Commissioner Schreiber, you'd asked, you pondered on the last public hearing about the amount of public improvements on, versus the lot count. And so this has a similar amount of public improvements. It's got actually a little bit less than 900 feet of arterial, and there's 3 times the lots. So it just kind of gives you the idea, or gives you a little bit of perspective on how expensive it is to actually build corner lots versus it is to build just these, the center ones in between the intersections. So we're at 4.68 dwelling units per acre on this. This is well below the minimum. All of the lots meet the minimum criteria. The smallest one is 5,174 square feet. The maximum is just under 12,000. So we were very, very intentional with how we designed this. First, the city staff came to us in the pre-development meeting talking about the relocation of Yukon because the existing road location right here creates for kind of a wonky skew. Even though this is a traffic controlled crossing, so there's crossing arms there, it's not the best location for an intersection just right there, right next to a railway. So we came up with a solution to create a green belt in this area that is marked, is shown here in green. There will be the 10-foot pathway that will be built along McGuire Road will continue into that green belt and then connect into the sidewalk at Yukon Loop. There is an existing home to remain that's shown right here, and the other homes will be demolished. And with regards to the pipeline, so we were really intentional with the location of where the easement is on the lots. So as you can't really see very well, but this easement, as it comes across here, is only on one of the lots. So we don't split a lot line with that easement. And the reason for that is really important, is that we didn't want anyone putting a fence line parallel to the pipeline, on top of the pipeline. We met out there with the pipeline folks, and we dug down to figure out where it was. We used a vac truck to suck all the rocks out and to see how far down it was. And it's a 10-inch diameter steel natural gas pipeline, and it is 3.5 feet, between 3 and 3.5 feet below the existing surface. So which is about normal for pipelines. It's better than the Yellowstone pipeline, the Conoco 66. There are spots where it's about 8 inches deep. It's about right for what we'd expect out there, and we are designing around it. So we got we showed on our construction plans where it's located exactly so that our water and sewer infrastructure go around it. We're not conflicting with anything in that vicinity. So we're very intentional, very aware of it. And the 20-foot pipeline easement gives them plenty of room if they want to replace it. They can replace it right next to it without disturbing the existing pipeline. Gives them enough room to dig and spoil without having to go outside their easement. So we were very intentional with that. With regards to the subdivision criteria, it is in East Green Acres Irrigation District, and we have a will serve letter. Sewer is just across the street. We'll be coming across the street, across McGuire. So there's an existing manhole in McGuire. It's about 28 feet deep, so we'll be doing a drop manhole, tapping into that and extending it across McGuire into the subdivision and up and through and extending to the adjoining properties, providing for connection to adjoining properties, including Klondike that you saw just a few minutes ago. The streets are consistent with the Transportation Master Plan. If I go back, you can see that we are connecting to the north as well as here on Hall. We're connecting out to the west as well. And of course, Yukon connects out, and the connection here with Cornelius and Yukon provides for a much more effective and safe intersection with McGuire Road than what is existing at Yukon. As mentioned, it's the pipeline is, with regards to hazards or topographical conditions, it's a flat site. It's been grazed with, most of it was pasture land. And the pipeline has been located, and we've accounted for that in the design. It meets all the requirements of the R2 zoning, as well as all the other requirements of the code with regards to the subdivision layout, lot sizes, minimum requirements, etc. And we have made adequate plans to ensure the community will bear no more than its fair share of costs by, of course, impact fees and the dedication of right-of-way and construction of frontage requirements on McGuire Road. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
I have one question on the pipeline easement. Is that going to be like a green space then that's maintained by the HOA?
No, it's not. It'll be.
How is it?
It'll be part of the lot. So it's just like, actually just like my house. It runs right through my backyard. And there's an area that I just can't build on.
So the homeowners that buy along that will be advised that they can't build for?
Correct.
Okay.
Really what's going to end up happening is that's where the boats are going to go. So they're going to park their boats next to their houses right there, and that's what's going to happen. That's the boat and RV storage. That's the reality of it.
So on that plat that you're showing right there where it shows green belt, that's currently Yukon?
That is.
So is the highway district dedicating that to this development, or are you improving?
So that's currently City of Post Falls right of way now that it's been annexed.
Okay.
City of Post Falls controls it. And so it's right of way. It's just there won't be a street there. It's just going to be a pathway and some landscaping that'll get maintained by the homeowners association.
So the developer is going to be responsible for removing the existing improvements, modifying and such so that it's a green belt, and then maintaining it in the future.
That's correct.
Okay.
Do you mind touching on just the improvements again for McGuire? Obviously, Yukon's getting redirected.
Yeah. So there's actually a pretty significant amount of improvements. So McGuire is being built out. So it's going to be 2 southbound lanes, so it's getting widened. The existing power poles, the Vista poles that are along McGuire are getting relocated behind the side or behind the curb. So there's significant relocation cost. It's over $100,000 to relocate all the power poles further west, so that they're out of the way. And there's a significant amount of pedestrian connectivity. So along pole line, along McGuire, there will be a 10-foot separated asphalt pathway from essentially with this one and Klondike. It'll end up being from the railroad and from this green belt all the way up to pole line. We'll have a 10-foot pathway separated from about 15 or 20 feet away from the roadway. So nice pathway, great pedestrian connectivity, and as we talk about quite a bit, and Commissioner Schreiber, you talked about it last hearing. These are little pieces these little chunks that happen, but as the dominoes fall, if you will, those pedestrian connectivity and the pedestrian connections happen, and the widening happens, and it's slow, but it does happen.
Thank you.
One of the conditions is McGuire Road shall be designed and constructed as a 3-lane minor arterial roadway. And then it says the existing truck lane at the railroad crossing shall be maintained. What does that mean? What's the truck lane?
So you know how when you get to a railroad crossing, there is the road widens out to a second lane so that propane trucks and school buses can come to a full stop.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Okay,
And
so that doesn't go away. That stays.
it doesn't go
in the
away. It stays. So it'll just end up being, there will still be just 2 lanes south. We're not widening a 3rd lane to widen the crossing. What it is we'll be putting curb and gutter along the entire thing, but there will be
Okay.
2 southbound lanes. One of them will be utilized as that truck lane.
Okay.
Any other questions? All righty. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right, the only testimony we had was from Sherry Boderland again, and I think we kind of addressed that. Unless you had any more questions. Nope. Okay. True. Okay. Nobody else? No need for a rebuttal then, Ms. Kimball? Okay. All right, close out the hearing.
Okay, Commissioners, the Lucky Larry Subdivision 26-1, 13.46 acres, 63 lots in an R2 zone proposed. Same criteria we just went through. Number 1, addressing water.
So we have a will-serve letter from East Green Acres Irrigation District that clearly states that they have the capacity, willingness, and intent to serve the 63-lot subdivision.
Thank you. And the sewer question. Same question. I assume it's the same answer for City of Post Falls in the record. There's
Adequate.
really no testimony on that issue. I won't make you answer me. Number 3, the proposed streets are consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan.
Much the same conversation we had on the adjacent proposed subdivision, is that the design and so forth as laid out does meet the comp plan, or does meet the transportation plan requirements, including the fact that the developer has worked with the city and the highway district to accommodate the railroad and make that intersection safer.
Yes, that Yukon improvement is big. That's a disaster right there.
Yeah, to get away from the railroad, yeah. And then there's connectivity to the parcel to the north now and to the west for future development.
Thank you, Commissioners. Number 4, any topographical issues identified?
None identified.
Yeah. And if you want to mark, I mean, just the easement over the pipeline, but that is well aware, the developer is well aware of that, and there will be an easement, but nothing else was really identified.
Thank you, Commissioners. Number 5, the area proposed for the subdivision is zoned for the proposed use, and it conforms to other requirements in the code.
So per our R2 zone, this is almost 13 and a half acres. That R2 zone could allow up to 146 homes. This project is proposed for 63, which is well below that absolute maximum. So it does, at least in my opinion, it meets the requirements of the R2 zoning.
Agreed.
And finally, the question on the adequate plans, ensuring the community doesn't bear more than its fair share of the costs.
Well, they're going to pay their impact fees and also the cost of all the road improvements.
Agreed. Thank you, Commissioners.
Any other discussion? Or is ready for a motion?
Okay. I move to approve Lucky Larry Estate Subdivision File Number SUBD-26-1, the public hearing, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 17.12.060 as outlined in our deliberations, subject to conditions 1 through 12, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
Okay, motion on the floor,
Second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Carey,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Schlauer,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes?
Wilhelm.
Yes.
Flock.
Yes.
All right, motion is approved.
Can I just make a note on that too, that in the application paperwork, there's references as Lucky Larry, and then there's also references as, I think it's Kennedy Springs. Just in the final reasoned decision, we probably want to make sure that it's clearly, that it's accurate and that Lucky Larry is the right reference.
All right.
I want to know who Lucky Larry is.
Next item on the agenda is Genesis Land Special Use Permit, file number SUP-26-2, and we'll open that hearing.
Yes, good evening, Commissioners. John Manley, Planning Manager, doing the staff report for the Genesis Land Special Use Permit. So the applicant is Ray Kimball of Whipple Consulting Engineers. The owner is Genesis Preparatory Academy. And the request is for an approval for a special use permit to allow 112 fourplex multifamily units on 6.52 acres. What you see here, this is the 4 review criteria. We'll go into those in a bit. You do have, though, you can attach additional conditions, not limited to the following. So you can, if you see anything and you want to minimize adverse impact, you can do that. You can control the sequence and timing of development. You can control the duration of development. You can do things to assure the development is maintained properly, control the location and setbacks of the development, and you can require more restrictive standards than those generally required in a zoning ordinance. So now going into the details of the proposal, you see the proposed location hatched here in the red hatched, halfway between Charville Road and Highway 41, north of East 16th Avenue. Looking at the zoning, you see here, that's the red is the CCS, that's the Community Commercial Service Zone. To the south, you see some R2 zoning, and to the southeast, you see some additional CCS zoning. On the east side of Highway 41, you see that strip of CCS. and then it transitions into some R3. You see that typical corridor type environment where you see commercial along the higher classified roadway, transitioning to lesser intense development to the as you move away from that corridor. Looking at this, it's a little askew. Notice the north arrow is on the left side of the screen. So I know. I correct it later on. But here you see the exhibit, their proposal. Here's how they plan to align their fourplexes, their parking lot, their open space, running centrally between the parking lot. And you see a green space proposed currently here where Exodus terminates to the east from Nicholson Commercial. Water provider would be Ross Point Water District. Wastewater would be City Post Falls. The project description I've already kind of gone over. So now I'm going to jump into those 4 review criteria that I mentioned just a bit ago. First one, implementation of the special use will or will not conform with the purposes of the applicable zoning district. So looking at the CCS zone intent, support commercial uses and higher density residential along arterial and collector streets. 16th Avenue is a collector, so it'd be adjacent to that, and it is not too far away from Highway 41, the principal arterial. Looking at the development, higher density housing near commercial areas promotes, and it ties into some goals and policies in the comprehensive plan, goals 1 and 7, and policies 1, 2, 3, 8, and 20. And looking at this and through development, you do get a walkable customer base possibly along those corridors. You also maybe get some rooftops near where they may be employed along the Highway 41 corridor through various types of businesses. All of that creates an assist getting a stronger, sustainable environment and economic and neighborhood vitality. You also, to the west, do have a religious facility with other amenities along as part of its site. Looking for the zoning compliance, this is allowed in the CCS through the special use permit, and the proposal does plan to meet the bulk and placement standards. Going on here, you do see here's the density. It comes out about 17.18, and it comes out to about 2536 on average per lot. So the average land area consumed per unit, it does meet the minimum of that 2,400 square feet. Here's where that,
John, real quick.
whoop,
What is the 2,400 though? That's for R3?
that is, that's for the R3 other. So when you look at these,
If it had been R3.
so in the CCS description, it says that in the CCS, you can get a special use permit such that it's conditions with the development standards within the R3. So they point you to the R3, and that's why that exhibit is there in that form.
Thanks.
Here's where it is right here, multifamily. We have special use permit, CCS. So that allows it to come forward with the special use permit, and that is to meet criteria B, which says whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use permit as established by Title 18. Looking at criteria C, whether the proposed use will or will not be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or the land uses in the vicinity. Do need to make a correction on this slide. So where you see this green strip, these are all fourplexes. That's a form of multifamily. To the east of that green area, that is planned to be a duplex development, another form of multifamily. So there would not be a buffer there. So surrounding this project with all those uses, nothing surrounding this per our code requires a buffer as it currently stands. Nearby arterials and collectors offer connectivity to the residents. There was, in condition 3 you've seen in the staff report, the requirement for a traffic impact study done to this to see how the effects of this could affect the surrounding environment in the intersections. We propose condition 4, and it's a fire-related one, which I'll go into the actual wording of that, and that is more or less that if you have more than 100 units, that the fire requires a secondary access, unless otherwise allowed by fire, which I'll point out the specific language on that, but that's kind of the location where there could be a secondary access attained.
At the end of Exodus?
Yeah, so when you look at the plan, and I'll jump ahead here. I thought it would be quicker to go the other way. So I'll go back to this one. So here's where they plan to have their main entrance point. And there's how Exodus from the Nicholson commercial and the duplexes that are off to the east. So depending on how they design these structures, it may or may not require from fire a secondary access. So there is a point and opportunity for this developer to create that access so it can meet fire requirements. The applicant might be can go into that more because he may know how these structures are being designed.
But that'll be something just like with any other development, when you get to that point, talking with the fire department. And they'll
And
figure
staff.
it out.
Fire is a signatory on our site plan development plans. And so this comes in and
Gotcha.
like, I think if they design it with some sort of fire suppression system, they may be able to get around from having the secondary access. So depending on how they design the structures, it may or may not require that connection.
Gotcha.
But preliminary by the plan, it could work the way it is proposed. But we would cross that bridge at the time of development with fire and coordinate accordingly with fire.
Okay.
As you see here, review criteria C, this goes on to continue discussion with that third criteria. Looking at, I already talked about the compatibility with arterial and collector streets. We would look at improving the roadways to assist the cars, bikes, and people. That's part of that traffic study, which ties into that next bullet point. And multifamily uses, the proposed density would generally be less traffic than a typical commercial development. Water reclamation, the city has the capacity to serve it. Like I said before, Ross Point Water would be the water service provider. Going into the fourth review criteria, looks at will the proposal comply with the goals and policies found in the comprehensive plan. Goal 1, grow and sustain a balanced, resilient economy. Ties in with also Goal 7, plan for and establish types of quantities of land uses in Post Falls, supporting community needs and a long-term sustainability. I've already kind of gone over this. This is tying into that commercial corridor going up 41, getting enough rooftops nearby to where people might have their places of employment, places of commerce, and getting enough housing to get improved commercial services along those corridors also, and other job businesses. Policy 1, support land use patterns that do the following. I think I've kind of already gone over most of this, what you see here, kind of ties into those. Policy 2, apply and revise zoning designations with careful considerations and factors, including future land use mapping, compatibility with surrounding land uses, infrastructure, existing and future traffic patterns. Kind of gone over those already. I've already kind of go over the traffic study that would kind of assist with the traffic patterns to make sure it's designed in accordingly. It's in the future land use designation of business commercial, which business commercial supports that mix of moderate high density within walking distance of commercial corridors. Right here in that, where you see that blue star, it's in that 41 North area. So you can see here the 41 suggests that the provisions for multifamily, commercial, and tech uses near higher classified roadways. Projects provide multifamily near Highway 41. Once again, it gets to that synergy, the dynamics between housing and job providers and commerce. Kind of already gone over that. Policy 19, encourage cluster. This is in the comp plan. Policy 19, encourage clustering of units in new residential development, providing service efficiencies, creating opportunities for private or community open space. You can see here, it is a form of cluster residential housing, and you can see where they do intend to put their open space. Policy 20, consider the location of multi-family development in areas that have access to arterial and collector streets. I've already acknowledged that. Help buffer higher and lower intensity development patterns. This right here is just kind of fitting in with other uses. That's why there's no buffering currently being applied. Here's the agencies that were notified. Here's the comments that were received. School district was neutral. CUNY County, as I've already discussed, they would coordinate their stuff at the time of development. Phillips 66, they had no utilities within the project site. Post Falls Highway District, they would like to review the traffic impact study upon recipient of that, being the city. Typically, when we get that, that's kind of what the engineering division would do. They naturally do that as part of the review. DEQ had no environmental impact concerns. Once again, here's those 4 review criteria I've gone over. There's those conditions. And then here's the 3 conditions that were in the staff report. One thing that didn't cite, there is a desire for getting a parking lane on that north side of East 16th Avenue. And here's where that condition, more than 100 units requires a secondary access or as coordinated with Kootenai Fire Department. So we'd like to kind of have that condition added to that 4th one.
So where were that first set of conditions?
The 3, 1, 2, and 3?
No, the slide before this one?
This right here is what you are allowed to. So
Okay.
through what I presented, if there's anything that you had concerns of and wanted to mitigate above and beyond that was presented in the staff report, this gives the parameters that you guys can embark on.
Those aren't in the staff report anywhere though, right?
I thought I listed them as potential in your staff report, but I think the critical point is now, so you guys
Sure.
kind of know
Yeah, as
what
long as
you're.
they're there, yeah.
But there's the review criteria.
Okay.
Any questions for me at this point before I step away?
Questions for staff?
Yeah. So the CCS is a commercial zoning,
Mm-hmm.
and both sides of 41 are pretty much that a long ways. And this application here, there'll be no commercial in the 6.5 acres. So it'll be basically an R3 zone change is what we're doing if we did it, right in the middle of the CCS.
Well, I wouldn't consider it an R3 zone change. I think the philosophy of zoning of Highway 41, and it occurred before my time here, which was a while ago now. I believe what it was is the design principles. You don't know when you're going down Highway 41 when they did this, whether you're going to get a big box store that you needed, 600 plus feet of depth in order to accommodate a big box,
Right.
or whether you're going to get local corridor commercial that you may need no more than a 300 foot deep lot. And to constrain yourself into a very idealistic type, this corridor is going to be this zone and this is going to be this use, you would never get it right. And so you'd be inundating yourself with zone changes and public processes. So basically what it did is it looked at the free market approach, saying, okay, odds are along Highway 41, you're not going to put apartments right on Highway 41. But to build in some flexibility, rather than just zoning it one way, you can build in the special use permit. Then that would allow the opportunity, pending the market in the right location, for someone to go before you guys, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and say, hey, we think that in this location, apartments or some sort of other multifamily product would help support that local commercial that's closer to Highway 41.
Right.
So it's more or less a different path. And what that path does do is goes back to that 6 parameters that's different than a zone change. Because if you get a zone change, you wouldn't be able to add conditions above and beyond what the code requires versus the special use permit allows that vehicle.
Well, it's still 118 units, so that's what R3 would be. And they're not leaving any commercial left, and that is in a commercial area. So they've shifted away from the intended purpose of the plan.
Well, you're gonna have, so correct me if I'm wrong here, that whole, right up against 41 is all commercial. And then as you step back, that's CCS, but it's gonna be duplexes. Did that require a special use permit also?
A duplex, yes, they got a special use permit here.
Yeah. So you got commercial, we'll say R2 duplexes, and then basically R3 fourplexes, then you kind of transition to real life and Genesis.
How many feet is that, John, back from 41?
Let's see, for every 5 acres, you got 330. These are platted in weird formats. I would be willing to guess it's somewhere right around that 660-ish range. So, I mean, when you're not on the prime east-west corridors, like if you're on like Prairie Avenue, possibly Pole Line, that length, that viable commercial that goes down east-west lengthens as you get the more of a secondary tier, like this is a collector roadway. Your viability for good commercial diminishes, and so if you had a non-residential use along East 16th, the only viable option I would think for something with a decent revenue generator for the city or good lease rate, if you didn't have vacancy issues, would be more like an office type use, right? Maybe, but you wouldn't get prime commercial on a secondary or a second tier commercial. So that's another reason why I believe they baked in the special use permit into that CCS, is to build that into the design of that corridor.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty deep to put 118 units on that 6.5 acres that was supposed to be commercial, is what I'm getting at. Is you're taking away, yeah, we need housing, but we also need some commercial, whether what types are put in there or not, because the whole thing is getting wiped out. We're not even looking at a commercial property anymore.
Yeah, I would argue that based off the definition in our code of the community commercial services, that it wasn't 100% contemplated to be strictly commercial.
Right.
But, you know, I mean, that's just how I see it.
I mean, we have 41 and then Celtice for commercial. So once it's kind of gone, it's gone.
Any other questions for staff?
Remind me again, what's in the R3, what's the minimum lot size? Or maximum density, however we want to define it?
Believe
I thought you had a slide on it.
I had let's go back to that. Thank
2,400? Okay.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Invite the applicant up.
I got it, John. Thank you. Okay, Ray Kimball for the record. I'm here tonight representing the owner. So I'm going to go in and talk a little bit about the history of this, because this has got a little bit of a unique history. It's kind of bounced around, and some of you have seen the history, have been here long enough to know it, and, or at least the history as it relates to its zoning and how it's developed. So as you can see, this is this Genesis Academy, and this is their ball fields, and this is a food truck court. And so this was all under at 1.1 ownership, and this part here got carved off for commercial development once the highway improvements started. And at that point, they decided that the highway frontage was high value for commercial, but the secondary frontage on this west side of Nicholson Center was low value for commercial. And so at that point, when they decided to and got approved for duplexes, the mold was a little bit set for this area. This is an office building, this is an office building. And the original plan for this 6+ acres, was for the development of the Genesis Prep School. And they got all the way through extensive design, and I don't understand, I'm not privy to all the inner workings of why they pulled the plug on it. I suspect it had to do with construction cost and funding. But at some point, they pulled the plug on building in a school here, and then put it on the market. And so we're here tonight requesting a special use permit for multifamily for fourplexes. So not the typical 16-plex, 3-story woody walk-up, but something that is a little different, something that's not very common in Post Falls. There's very few of them. This is the site plan. So we've provided, we're under 18 dwelling units per acre. The maximum in R3 is 18, but then there's some density bonuses you're allowed if you get some certain things, but we're not going for those. So what you can see here is you can see in the brown, those are the buildings. They're basically, they look like they're 2-story houses. You can see in the blue, those are the duplexes. Exodus, we had the opportunity to do a secondary access in here, but we thought it'd be better to just do pedestrian access. We didn't want people shortcutting. And we thought that the one access out on the 16th was good. Fire code allows us up to 200 units if the units are sprinkled, 100 if they're not, then they require a second access. And we'll deal with that on the fire department side. That's not a big deal, so condition 4 is not big of a deal. So we provide the necessary parking. This is what the buildings look like, and this isn't a rendering. This is an actual Google Earth street view photo from the exact same thing done down in Twin Falls. So this is what the buildings look like. They look like a big house is really what they look like. So they don't really look like much like a fourplex. They've got some yard space. They've got little screen porches. And these in particular, there will be for ours, there will be a little bit different pathway, sidewalk layout to get to the doors, but this is essentially what they look like to give you a good idea of the aesthetic of the product. So with regards to the standards of approval, and I'll keep this pretty short, John, I think, hit it really, really hard, but this is an allowed use as a special use in CCS. The parking plan, we do meet all of the parking criteria. We have the necessary spaces, including the ADA, excuse me, including the ADA spaces. There will be no garage spaces. We will be widening 16th Avenue across our frontage. We'll be putting in the multimodal pathway across our frontage. I'll go back to that. That multimodal pathway will go across the frontage here. We'll be widening 16th across our frontage, which will provide enough width for turn lanes, bike lanes, etc. With regards to being compatible with health, safety, and welfare of the public in the vicinity, it will expand the pedestrian network next to a very busy pedestrian area that that ball field provides, gets a lot of traffic, and providing pedestrian connectivity to it is really important. And so that this frontage across our property is one of those missing links. It will provide housing in close proximity to businesses to allow for opportunity for those working at those establishments to minimize their commute. Close proximity to Highway 41 and the I-90 interchange allows for easy access to I-90 for those with a longer commute. 16th and Highway 41 is a signalized intersection, so the traffic mitigation issues there are already dealt with. And similar apartments in the vicinity demonstrate compatibility with the surrounding uses, and I'll show you some examples of those. These are all, this is a really similar development pattern up Highway 41. It's a pretty common development pattern we have. Right here we have the Goodwill right on the highway, and then right behind it there's apartments. There's some county pocket apartments right here. These are duplexes in the pink. Our project site is here in the green. But you can see, here at this location, this is pole line in Highway 41. We've got the 7-Eleven, we've got the grocery store, the McDonald's, and there will be, we expect a plethora of other development here on Ketchikan. We have the apartments here in Tullamore. Excuse me. And the commercial lots along Highway 41, which are largely undeveloped. Most of them, it just goes to show that, Tullamore, those lots have been there for well over 10 years, and commercial development on the highway is slow. It's not like there is a lack of availability and available lots. Really, there's a lack of demand, and the commercial retail space has really changed in the last 10 years, with Amazon being what Amazon is, where you don't have to leave your house to go and get a lot of goods that can get delivered to your door. So that's changed a lot of the commercial development patterns really in our country. And so, what I'm saying here is that the commercial development that'll happen will happen along the highway frontage, where people who are driving up the highway look over, see the business, see where they want to go there, utilize that business's services. But this property here is uniquely horrible for commercial. And I say that because it's so incredibly deep. It's over 1,000 feet from north to south in length. And can you imagine putting an office building in the very north side of that and having to drive a 1,000-foot long driveway all the way up to try to get to an office building in the back, just tucked in the back? Horrible, horrible location for anything commercial. Now, it was planned not for a commercial. It's planned to be a school. It's a great location for a school. It's just that didn't work out. And so that's why we're here tonight. The next best thing is to put some high-density residential in there, keeps the value up per square foot, keeps high taxable value, provides a type of product, a housing product that is different. It's not the 3-story, 16 plexes or 24 plexes that we see, but rather something very different. They're 4 plexes, they're 2 stories, they look a lot like a large house. And so with regards, that brings us to the goals and policies found in the comprehensive plan and how it applies to those and how it meets those goals and policies. John went through a whole bunch of them. I'm going to hit pretty hard. So policy 20, I don't have it written down right here, but it speaks a lot to policy 20. Says that consider local or multifamily development to locate it on arterial and collector streets, and we hit that one nail on the head. 16th is a collector, and it helps buffer higher intensity and lower intensity development patterns. And so we have essentially, what do we have? We have, what we're asking for is to put residential between residential and a soccer field. And those are the things that actually work really, really well together, rather than put what is there today, which would be, could be storage units maybe, in between, really ugly storage units in between duplexes and a soccer field. That's not great. Policy 7 speaks to encouraging a balance of land use. And I think we meet that requirement. It's a balance between what do we have, adjacent to it, and I think that works. Policy 8 hits really hard, which is encouraging compatible infill development and redevelopment of vacant and underutilized properties within city limits. That's exactly what we're doing. It's underutilized, and it's infill development. And policy 2, providing a range of housing types and price levels to accommodate diverse ages and incomes. You may have seen this slide before. So if the median home price in Post Falls is $425,000, and you can come up with an $85,000 down payment, your monthly payment is on a 30-year mortgage is sitting right around $7,500. Market rate for these units for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 3-bed, 2-bath is $1,600, $1,650, and $1,900 respectively for those units for a similar to what you'd get in a 1,300 square foot 3-bedroom, 2-bath, $425,000 home. So you see that there's a disparity there. That disparity, the difference will, that's important because not everybody has the down payment, and 2, the ability to make a $2,700 a month payment for a new home. And so finding housing that is in close proximity to schools, soccer fields, good transportation hubs, good transportation network, it's really important. Being walkable to areas where the residents, it's not permanent housing. It's, they're year-by-year leases typically. They're 12-month leases. And so, if you get the opportunity, if you have a job at, let's say, right now, the northwest corner of 41 and 16th is a Les Schwab that's under construction. So if you work at Les Schwab, maybe that's a great place for you to live. You don't have to get in your vehicle and drive. You walk to work. And so gas prices being for what they are right now, maybe saving that money on that commute really matters. So to that end, to conclude, the proposed multifamily does meet the requirements set forth in the code, and we're requesting approval as conditioned in the staff report. Any questions?
Questions?
I just have one. It's all open parking, right?
It is.
Okay, and I forget, but what's the ratio? I don't remember off the top of my head.
It is 2 per unit.
2 per unit?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And if it was a condition of the SUP that you provide 2 access to ingress, egress points, could you accommodate that?
Yeah, we can. It would end up being, so it would be a fire egress, which we can do with turf pavers if we wanted to over that open space area. The reality is that the fire code requirement, like I said, is you have to have 2 ingress egress points for 100 units or more if you don't sprinkle the buildings. It's my understanding that anything larger than a 3-plex and larger has to be sprinkled anyway. So which the default then goes to 200. So that's I have International Fire Code Appendix D is what dictates that. And so as conditioned, the way the condition was written, it's fine because we've got the out at the end that says or as the fire department requires, which is really what we have to deal with anyway. So we always have to deal with the fire department. So
My concern wouldn't necessarily be fire. My concern would be having 200 vehicles trying to leave at 7 a.m. in the morning via one driveway to take their kids to school and get to work.
it's
I'm not aware of any other apartment project of this size that only has one driveway, anywhere.
I do. I've done a lot of them. And so I've got one in Rathdrum's got one. Fieldstone has one. The second one was provided but gated. I think they may have taken the gate off. Most of them we try to keep for security purposes, ins and outs. We definitely try to keep the entrances to a minimum. So we try to keep them at 1. You're allowed up to 200 units. For 118, it's definitely pretty straightforward. So if you think about it, so that's 118. The peak hour. The peak hour for that is 0.75, I believe, peak hour trips per unit. So, we're sitting there at about 80, so you get 1 car every 45 seconds, probably making a left-hand turn on a fairly low volume 16th where there's a center turn lane and the ability to pop out, and there's very, very little westbound traffic in the morning on 16th. So it's one of those things where it's just a look one way, make sure that, or, well, look both ways. But predictably, fairly easy egress in the morning. And presumably, most people would be coming home via 41 in the evening, which is a right in, and all the left ins will have a dedicated turn lane. So, but that said, staff has required us to do a traffic impact analysis to make sure that we don't have any additional impacts, and that's not a big deal. We'll definitely take care of that, and we'll mitigate what we need to mitigate.
And that was going to be my question. There's going to be a traffic study done, so even if the fire code says you only need the one in and out, if the traffic study says something else, you guys are going to go with that. And
Got to deal with it. Yep.
so there could be.
See, what's the offsetting trade-off there? What will that space be used for at the end of Exodus? Is that green space or?
Yeah,
What is
it's supposed to be green space. The plan there was to put a little playground. It's a nice little spot, kind of a little spot there for playground area type, little tot lot kind of thing.
Yeah,
Play structure,
away from the traffic.
away from the traffic. Yeah. So, Exodus being, it was intended as, when it was originally designed, it was intended to be a connection point into the school. There was going to be two, and so that was what it was intended to be. I think, my recollection of that site plan was fuzzy. I didn't do it, but I reviewed it. So, but yeah, we thought it would be better as a pedestrian connection rather than a vehicle connection. So,
You say 2 parking spots per unit?
correct.
Where do the visitors park?
How many parking spots are there in there? I guess.
227.
227.
So there's no place for visitors? There's not a special area maybe?
There's essentially one space per bedroom, plus a couple.
Yeah. And so it meets the code requirements. Visitor parking can be, well,
Not necessarily
yeah,
everyone.
not everyone has 2
has
cars.
but-
So,
For each individual unit in that fourplex, what is the size, or are we looking at average size, square footage?
I think each one is right around 1,200 square feet. They're 2 stories. So bedrooms up, living space down.
And then I know there's improvements from, what is it, Charville to Nicholson? And obviously this may or may not be your project, but where La Schwab is that already where the paved, have they already made those improvements?
Right.
Can the
It's
path
already,
continue around all the way, already there?
yeah,
I
the
can't remember.
path, there's a big swale there that ITD built when they did the intersection improvements. So the road is paved, and the pathway is all the way to our east boundary, so we'll connect from east to west. And it'll fill that gap.
And that's what I'm getting at, the connectivity of the path around there.
Yes.
So okay, cool.
It'll connect it, yep. And it'll also, as conditioned, will also be restriping to the east to make sure that all the striping is consistent with turn lanes and what's necessary for the city. So, which is an offsite.
Did John say there was some parking going to be required along 16th also?
You did. I think the widening requirement will allow for some parking along 16th. It's my understanding from talking with staff that during soccer games, on-street parking is a premium in the vicinity.
Oh, yeah.
And presumably, if people live there and they have their kids playing the game, they're not parking anywhere other than their own parking spot, and then they're walking right next door to the game. So, for what it's worth, the addition of those those units shouldn't exacerbate the existing parking problems. It's not like someone's going to jump in their car and drive around the block to get to the field that's right next door. So.
The green space there between the parking areas, that's strictly just a green space? There's nothing, no amenities in it, or?
There will be some amenities. We haven't figured out which ones yet. So there's a couple things we can put in there. It's wide enough. It's wider than this room. So, you know, there's the ability to put some things in there, some, you know, I'm not sure what, but there's,
There will, okay.
yep.
What was the fourth condition again? Was that the parking or was that something else?
That was the fire condition.
Oh, okay. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Public testimony? All right, not wishing to speak in favor, Travis Anderson. Just in favor. Wishing to speak in favor, Jeremy Voller. Sorry if I mispronounced it. Just name for the record, and you'll have 4 minutes.
Jeremy Voller, 1689 North Nicholson Center Street, Post Falls. Would it be possible to get a picture of the map up so I could reference a couple of things?
Either one of you. Thank you, Mr. Kimball.
Thank you, sir. Just arrows. Keep going back. That's good, yep. Chair, Commission, thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I am in favor of this project. I'll give you a little context as to the reason why I'm in favor of it. I'm actually the commercial building owner located right here off of Exodus. We front Nicholson Center, and our building is accessed off of Exodus. And I also I own several of the duplex lots just behind the proposed project. So a little bit of an interest as to what goes on with this project. I would also like to mention that I was also part of the planning team that was working on the previously designed school project on this piece as well, so I could provide a little bit more information as to what was going on there regarding Exodus. But being a commercial building owner and also a duplex owner might sound a little strange. I'm in favor of a project like this, but I'm also I operate my business out of that building. I'm a commercial developer, real estate developer. I run my home building company out of that building. I do see this type of a project as the highest and best use for the particular piece. I've laid it out myself a couple of different ways. The applicant pointed out the irregular layout of the lot, and it's tough to get a commercial use on that. So I do believe that that the fourplex layout that they did is the highest and best use, and I think it's laid out very well. The pictures that I saw as to the product that's being proposed on here, I believe that it complements the product that I would be looking to build on the duplex lots, not compete with it. The reason I say that is because the product here is a different product than duplexes. And so I think, I believe that in real estate, the tide raises all ships. And so more people coming to this area would also help me in my duplex lots, leasing those out. So I see it as a complement, not a competitor. And obviously being the commercial building owner and also seeing a lot of the other commercial development going on in my area, having more rooftops in the area is going to support our businesses. And so I see that as a benefit as well. I do understand the concern on parking. Mr. Wilhelm, I'd be happy to lease some of my parking spaces after hours for visitors to this project if need be. Because I'm right, I just wouldn't want them to drive across Exodus, which I'll get to in just a second. And obviously the surrounding areas, you do have the residential to the south. You've got the duplex project that I'm an owner in several lots. That SUP was approved back in March of 2021. I'm sure for some of the same reasons why we're looking at this one today. Also, you've got residential uses kind of mirrored on the other side of Highway 41, tucked behind the commercial uses. So I think it complements and is consistent with the way that the land is developed along that 41 corridor. Conditions, though, I did want to request of the commission to consider a couple of conditions. I know the access on Exodus has been talked about a lot. I really do appreciate the fact that the applicant positioned green space right there. My office window looks directly down upon that. And like I said, my building uses Exodus to access from the back of the building along with my tenants in the building, and then the duplexes are going to be exiting onto Exodus once those get built. The condition I would ask would be is if emergency services does need that as a secondary ingress-egress point, that provisions would be put in place to restrict any kind of regular vehicular traffic. So a gate with a Knox box would be put in place. I would request that as a condition. Going back to my previous, if you don't mind, use a little bit more time here given the context. As part of the design team with the school, that Exodus was going to be used for an emergency services access only. We weren't going to use that for pickup and drop off for families and students. We had negotiated that on the campus itself coming out to 16th. So the intent of Exodus was never to be used for regular vehicular traffic. The intent of it was always for emergency vehicles only. The other condition that I would request is that you limit the buildings to 2 stories. I think we don't have any 3 stories or high-rise type multifamily on this side of 41. And I think given the duplexes are going to be 2-story, my commercial building's 2-story, keeping with 2-story neighbors would be great in the event that you approve this. So, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Mark Hughes. Name for the record, please.
Name is Mark Hughes, address 7074 West Prairie Avenue. I am, of course, familiar with the property because I've been to dozens and dozens of soccer games watching my kids play there, and of course frequent the food trucks. But the reason I wanted to appear to support this project is because I happened to, some time back was comparing notes with projects I'm involved in, and one of the team members involved in this project. And I just had to laugh when I was looking at this land. I said, boy, you really got a challenge on your hand, trying to figure out what to do with this kind of property. And I thought the applicant did a really good job explaining some of the challenges and the solutions they came up with, trying to, again, do highest and best use. So, again, I was familiar with it because of having met with one of the team members, and I just thought, well, you got a real challenge on your hand. I think you're doing a great design job there, and I'll do my best to support you. So I support their efforts.
All right. Thank you. Wishing to speak in favor, Casey's at Reese. Name for the record, please.
Yeah, it's Casey Reese, and I'm with NAI Black. I actually represent the owners of this property. And I just wanted to offer myself as a resource. I am a retail broker here in the area, North Idaho. And the point of Post Falls, I've done all of the stuff out there, as you're familiar with. We're doing Prairie Crossing at the northeast corner of 41 and Prairie, which is a 50-acre major shopping center anchored by Super One. And then in Coeur d'Alene, we just did the Raising Canes that just came out of the ground, the redevelopment of the at-home there. And so I am a retail expert in this, and just wanted to give you some history. Property's been listed a little over a year, and not once did we consider it a retail use. I saw some public comment saying, you know, this is a really great start to a new commercial development. And it's like, no, this isn't at any point a retail development. As most people in my industry know, there's probably 4-ish main things that national retailers are looking for. We represent Costco, Jersey Mike's, Nothing But Cakes, Spectrum, Verizon, work with Starbucks. All of those guys, they're looking for traffic counts, signalized hard corner. They're looking for access and visibility. And this property doesn't check off any of those boxes. So it's too deep. So even if you were going to do a retail use on 16th, maybe you get a little bit 100 foot of depth, but this thing goes back like a tooth, and there's really nothing else you can do back there. In that time that we were marketing this property, end users is what we were looking for, hoping for maybe some kind of light industrial, or we also had a medical user, end user at one point, and they chose a different location. And so I really do believe these guys have done the highest and best use for what this property is. And yeah, I'm in favor of it, and happy to be here to answer any questions if you need.
Alrighty, thank you.
Yep.
Wishing to speak in opposition, Patricia Murphy. Name for the record, please.
Patricia Murphy. Thank you for letting me speak. I want to actually switch. On my form, I put that I was opposed. I'm going to put neutral, change it to neutral. From the public notice that was posted on the lot, it appeared there was going to be 114 fourplexes. That's when I was a little unhappy. Mostly the
Well,
issue.
that'd be a good engineered.
Yeah, so it's been clarified. Thank you.
Ray could
I
probably
still
do
do
that.
have concerns with the traffic volume. So I did bring this up when we were talking about the corner of Cecil and 16th and that project that's going on there that's going to be mixed use with some commercial. But we have issues with bus stops that are on 16th and little kids being out there and the traffic. There's no sidewalks or anything along that line. So I really hope not just with the amount of traffic going through, but they take into account the speed of the traffic that's going through. And if we need to do something besides a four-way stop at there and Greens Ferry, because there will be a lot of traffic for the people that are going to be living in here. There was something else besides traffic. What on my list I put?
Traffic flows, sidewalks, four-way stops are dangerous, pedestrians,
Something a little further down.
parking and density.
Okay. No, they addressed all of that when I was,
All right. I updated the form for you.
okay.
Yep.
That's all I needed to say.
All right, thank you. Wishing to speak in opposition, Pat McDonald.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm opposed to it.
Could you just name for the record, please?
Pat McDonald.
Thank you.
I live at 1847 Sky Blue Drive. I'm surrounded by real-life projects, and it's starting to eat on me. Are they a church or corporation? Are they a real estate developer? I don't know. And our backyard faces the soccer fields. The traffic situation is ridiculous on days they have soccer games and everything else. And I know one of these days some kid's going to get hit by a car. People drive up and down Charlieville and they don't pay attention. That's all I want to say.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Kimball, any rebuttal?
Ray Kimball again for the record. Appreciate the comments with regards to the conditions. I don't think we have a issue with an additional condition of approval, even if it matters for a two-story limitation. That's where we're putting it anyway. With regards to traffic and sidewalks, we will be doing a traffic study. Just remind you of that. We will be connecting pathway across, so connecting the gap across our frontage for pathway for pedestrian connectivity. And, with regards to parking, if necessary, we do have the ability to add parking. It just comes at the sacrifice of some of the open space in that center corridor. So if necessary, we could add some if parking becomes an issue.
You're doing sidewalks along 16th, right? Is that part of your condition?
10-foot pathway.
Pathway,
It's a
yeah.
10-foot wide pathway, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions that I
What
can
would you
answer?
do with parking?
So what we could do, so as you see, there's parking here in this center island.
Yeah.
We could add parking, it just comes at the sacrifice of open space. So if parking becomes an issue, it's a fairly simple add. So if residents so, I mean, the reality is when it comes to parking, and we found this to be very true throughout I don't know, my company's probably done, 7,000 or 8,000 units worth of apartments in the last 10, 15 years. We found that when parking becomes an issue, people move away. They finish out their lease and they decide that they don't like it and they move to a different place. So if parking is an issue and lease rate and vacancy rates increase to the point where it becomes financially untenable for the owner to ignore the issue, then they add parking. And that's just something that happens. Yes, sir?
Didn't earlier on we say there was going to be some street parking added on 16th, though?
There will be, yeah. Generally speaking, I hate counting street parking. And,
I get it.
It's one of those things where it's the argument I have with my dad. He thinks he owns the street in front of his house. He gets mad when the neighbor parks their car there. And he yells at me, he grouses at me about it all the time. That's my parking spot. And it's like, no, it's not, Dad's public street. But, it's just one of those things. It's kind of funny. I think if you look at, when it comes to on-street parking, and it's one of those things where we plan for it. All of our typical cross-sections in the city of Post Falls, be it residential, arterial, or collector, they all have options for on-street parking. And if you look at a Google Earth image at any subdivision, if you look through Fieldstone on Google Earth and you look at the available parking on-street parking, there's a lot of available on-street parking that is completely underutilized. It's not as if every on-street parking spot is used. In fact, it's very, very much the opposite. It's very little use. But I never counted anyway. So, if you got any other questions, I'll be happy to answer.
I got one more, but it's a little lighter there. What time do they shut the lights off on the soccer fields?
I have
10?
no idea.
It's a good question.
Because
Quad Park had that issue 35 years ago,
right?
40 years ago. So
Right.
that's the only thing I have to say there too is there's
That might
16 units right there, 18 units that are going to be looking right at those lights at 10:30 at night.
Right? Everybody around, everybody for miles.
Yep.
I mean, that's a reality. Blackout curtains are a thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, I get it.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Close out the hearing and look at the review criteria.
Thank you, Commissioners. Before you tonight is SUP, Special Use Permit 26-2 for the Genesis Land application. 112 units in fourplexes, not 112 fourplex units, on 6.52 acres in the CCS zone. Review criteria number 1 is whether implementation of the special use would or would not conform to the purposes of the zoning district, being CCS.
Now, under a special use permit, densities of R3 is an allowable zone or density in CCS. And we talk about having residential areas a little bit farther back from commercial, so you kind of have that downgrade where you got the commercial and then you got the duplexes and then these, and then the church is there. So it's kind of a step down.
And this does eliminate all the commercial use on this one.
On those
Well,
interior.
there's still commercial use
On the
on
interior.
41.
On the interior
On the
lots.
6.5 acres we're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I think that was kind of, being that the duplexes are going to be there, that kind of changed it anyhow.
The CCS zone It's almost misleading when we call it community commercial, because it does allow a variety of uses, and it kind of directs us to do that, to create mixed uses. Granted, this isn't a mixed use on this one site, but when you look at the larger, 50 acres, 100 acres that this larger neighborhood is, it does create more of that mixed use with multifamily going in there. And I also would say that when we're talking about a buffer between commercial uses, residential uses, I don't know what you would call the soccer fields next door, but kind of community type uses, I think apartments are actually a pretty good buffer between those things. In other words, you wouldn't have a Costco right next to single-family residential. You'd want something that kind of buffers it, and this could be something that's buffering between the commercial users closer to the highway and the single-family residential further from the highway. So for that reason, I think it does conform with the zoning district.
Yeah, and I think, at least for me, going through, as I mentioned a couple times, it was CCS for a reason, and that reason changed over time. That kind of jogged my memory, because as far as that school, though, I do remember that coming through planning and zoning. I think a couple of us were on planning and zoning at that time, a couple, 4 or 5 years ago. So as the need changes, that's why a special use permit is in front of us tonight.
Some of these criteria are subjective. This one really isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It does conform.
And Commissioners, I was reviewing the code on this issue as well, on the CCS zone, the definition. I thought this was kind of helpful, and I'll just put it out there. It says residential uses in this area may be allowed at the densities permitted when they will not compromise present uses. So in my mind, it kind of guides that criteria a little bit and says, is the implementation of an R3 product here, does that compromise the present uses in the CCS zone on the adjacent properties or anything else? And I don't know if there was much testimony as to saying how it would adversely affect those adjacent uses. Just something to think about, but I think we've had enough on that one, and I'll go move to number 2. Number 2 is whether the proposed use constitutes an allowable special use as established by the chapter and other regulations of the city.
Yeah, I think we've kind of touched on this already. It's CCS, the land use table says it's got to be a special use permit for multifamily 3 or more units.
Yeah, and this criteria is a little bit of a giveaway one, because it wouldn't get to you if it wasn't an allowable special use. So, number 3, whether the proposed use will or will not be compatible with the health, safety, and welfare of the public or with the other land uses in the vicinity. And this touches a little bit upon what I just mentioned, the compatibility factor.
So personally, I'm very concerned about traffic. I understand that this is a very difficult site to develop because of the depth and the width. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we have to compromise safety-wise just to accommodate a development.
I don't think there's another use though that would be lower traffic. A school would certainly be more.
Yeah, school would have been a lot.
Most
No,
commercial uses would
and
be
I would
more.
agree with that. My biggest concern is having one way in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know if we do have that condition on there, that a traffic study be performed and that they work with the fire department, which they're gonna have to do anyways, and meet, building codes and all that. I understand that. I just worry about the practicality of one way in and out. If you look at the other apartment complexes, even just in this immediate vicinity, they all have more than one way in and out. Most of them have multiple ways in and out.
Because I'm thinking the one at, Syringa in Fieldstone, that's a big apartment complex. It's only got one entrance on and off of Syringa.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
I think because of the shape of the parcel, it looks constricted, but I think by the numbers,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
And like I said, if one of the conditions is they've got to have a traffic study,
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
then that should be accommodating to that. I'm just expressing a concern.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioners, thank you. So I'm getting a general sense of compatibility with the adjacent uses, with some concerns for traffic that will be mitigated at least by the TIS requirement. Okay.
Agreed.
Agreed.
And finally, number 4, we're looking for a few goals or policies that might be supportive of the proposed use, or ones that are contrary to that.
Policy number 1 is that it's compatible with the adjacent uses. And as far as something going between a ball field and a soccer field and duplexes, I don't know what could be more compatible than this, what looks like a single-family product.
Yeah, kind of in line with that. I wrote down policy 15. It says ensure the adequate land for future housing needs, help serve residents of ages, all ages, incomes, and abilities. A topic that keeps coming up is the affordability of homes, with these being fourplexes and 1,200 square feet. Hopefully they are somewhat more affordable than your normal size single-family homes.
There's a couple other policies we could include in there. Policy 21, maintaining standards for multifamily housing, encourages quality design with usable open space. Let's see, what else do we have? There were a couple other really good ones that I thought were important.
I don't think I've ever drafted a policy 19 one, so this is the cluster development one, so I'm going to advocate for that one being looked at.
Yep, agreed.
Policy 19, yes, the clustering of units. Policy 20 is the location of multifamily in areas that are access to arterial and collector streets, serves as a buffer, abuts compatible uses. I thought that one was a good one too.
I think policy 2 is the diversity in housing types. And this is a product that would probably be more attractive to a lot of people than a typical apartment building, maybe being on the 2nd or 3rd floor. I think it'd be an attainable housing type that would be pretty attractive to a lot of people, current residents, future residents.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners.
All right. Any other discussion?
Well, I don't like the idea of using the CCS to build apartments or fourplexes, but the way this law is conformed, I don't know what else you could do with it, you know, commercially. And Mr. Kimball had a good point with the retail environment has changed a lot. You know, so much stuff is online. I don't know what you'd put in there, so although I don't like it, I would go with it.
I like that, you know, that our code gives us the flexibility that when we annex in a big swath of property like this on both sides of 41, we have the flexibility to say, you know, it's not going to be great retail any longer that far off of 41 or off of a major collector. So I like that we have this process to review something rather than have to go back to a zone change.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that came through this commission and city council as 41 was being widened, and every condition was as 41 was finished, as 41. Now, things have changed, and to your point, the code allows us to kind of change course a little bit without having to do a whole zone change, go through there, and just do the special use permit, but I think this does fit.
So as we move forward, are we adding the conditions as recommended by staff? And should we add a condition to limit to 2 stories?
I think we should just,
Yeah, I think condition 4 that
the parking
John
lane
talked
on the
about.
east side of 16.
Oh, yeah, the parking.
Yeah, that was for,
I thought the thought condition was the fire condition.
which was, okay.
I think condition 3 included
Oh,
the parking on
there we go.
16th.
Yeah, that was,
So we would be adding a fifth condition that would be limiting to no more than 2 stories?
That's fine with me.
I think the two-story really helps with the compatibility with the two products
Yeah.
on each side.
yeah, I think we should add that.
That's fine.
Condition.
Okay.
That being said, anybody like to make a motion? Chris, you were writing stuff down.
I could make a motion here.
Thank you.
Let me get the title of this one. So I move to approve the Genesis Land Special Use Permit File Number, SUP 26-2, finding that it meets the approval criteria in Post Falls Municipal Code 18.20.070 as outlined in our deliberations here, and subject to the 4 conditions as recommended by staff, adding to that condition number 5, limiting the development to 2 stories or less, and direct staff to prepare a written reasoned decision.
I have a motion on the floor
I second.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Flock,
Yes.
Wilhelm,
Yes.
Schreiber,
Yes.
Lautenhauer,
Yes.
Stephenson,
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
All right. Motion is approved. Next item on the agenda is number 5, administrative and staff reports.
Just a quick reminder about that special phone-in type meeting that may occur.
We'll get an email.
Correct.
Sounds good.
Before everyone leaves, just wanted to mention that we really appreciate all the input.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming out. Okay.
Looks like the budget hearing is still happening, so we're invited up.
No, thanks. Item number 6, commissioner comments.
I already threw in my comment. I
Threw in
wanted
your
to
comment.
catch everybody before they left.
I don't think anybody from city council would come down here if we were not done, so.
It's a valid point, valid point. Hey, phone. So, if I drag this on, do you lose the bet? What are you losing, $1? All right. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.